But again, if you haven't done it before, well, this is going to be your introduction. How much I have to unfold, straighten, so on and so forth. Well, I want to keep a certain amount of this shape.
And there's where all the drag racing's happening, but everybody's having a good time, just chilling out. Oh! So how'd you do after your first round? Painted up with some trim black, and you can see we have plenty of room here, just like what was showing you before, but that is what your finished product is going to look like.
Time for Metal Fabbing 101. How are we going to make these pieces? Well, I'm going to show you. This is really basic stuff, but again, if you haven't done it before, well, this is going to be your introduction, and maybe opening your mind up on some things that are around you that you can use to be able to make the shapes that you want. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with. Those are the holes that we have to fill, and those are the shapes that we want to keep. So at this point, I'm already seeing basically this is going to be just a right angle piece, and then I'm just going to make a little piece that fits in the back. This guy is going to be a little bit of a dip, like a 180 dip, and then it's going to be flat, and it's going to end up following this contour, and then I'm just going to make a piece that closes this off. All right? So how do we do that without getting really crazy into stuff? Without making a whole bunch of individual pieces, how can we make it out of one piece for each one? Obviously, with the backing, that's going to be the added-on piece. Let me show you. We are at 4 5/8 there. On the top, we are perfectly 4 inches. All right, so we're at 4 5/8 and 4 inches. So I'm just writing this down behind us. 4 5/8 and 4. Now, I need to know my height without tripping. So we are looking at about 1.5 inches, about 1.5 inches. Okay, so we are at 1.5 for height. Okay, so now, also what I have to do is, this is at an angle. This I'm not too worried about. We'll make the piece, and then all we're going to do is just mark the back side of it and cut it at the end of it. Then this whole piece will flop right in, and then I just fill this back piece in. So let's take a look at our measurements. Here's our chunk. And again, I mean, this is stuff that you can get at normal, like I said, we have Uncle Harry's. It's just kind of a metal shop, almost like a metal junkyard. Sometimes you can find stuff this thick at like Ace Hardware. You might be able to go to Lowe's, Home Depot. This stuff's a little thicker. This stuff's like about 100 thousandths thick. This is really nice for doing, if I really want to brace something in, not super supportive like a roll cage, but this stuff's a little thinner. I can manipulate it a little better. So this is what we're going to use. So we are at 4 5/8 and then 4. So we know our bottom is 4 5/8 right there. We know our top is 4. Now, we know total height is 1.5, but what I also got to do is, besides the height, I need to know the length. So I'm going to take a quick measurement of that length. I forgot to do that, sorry. Not quite between 3/4 and 7/8. So I know on the bottom side, I'm 4 5/8, so I'm going to measure up. I'm going to go in between 3/4 and 5/8. Or I'm sorry, 3/4 and 7/8. So I know I'm there. Now from that point, I got to make it up to my 4-inch mark. And I know from that flat, I'm up another 1.5 inches. So we'll go 1.5, sorry. Measuring it off of 1. So right there. And right there. So I know I'm right there. Now at that point, that's going to be that height. I want to make sure I'm at 4 inches. So my 4-inch mark will be right there. Now, let's get a straight edge. Got my straight edge. So I know I'm at 4 from there to there. So we'll mark that to 4 inches. I know I'm solid from here to here. And like I said, this front edge is going to have to get cut at an angle. It's just super easy to lay it in there and just make a little black Sharpie mark, and then you just cut it. So now I know from there to there, I have to be like that. So now where I'm going to bend it is right there. So that'll be the bend. So now we're going to go over, we're going to cut that shape out, then I'm going to show you guys how to bend it.
I am getting out of the barn. I am heading home, going to take a shower, get the wife, and we are headed to the Hot Wheels drags. What are the Hot Wheels drags? Okay. Jimmer over at Go Fast, I've mentioned him a few times. He has thrown this for well over 10 years, a long time. And it's a great idea. All the tracks are closed. You can see there's snow up on the roof. I mean, it's just done. Normally, people hibernate. You know, they lock themselves in their barns. They kind of work on their cars a little bit. You know, and occasionally you'll maybe phone call a friend or something like that. Well, he does this to, like, get the whole community together, the whole hot rod drag race, car show, lowriders, just everybody together, hundreds and hundreds of people together, and we do the Hot Wheels drags. And he's got 3 drag strips set up, and you go get yourself a Hot Wheels. It still has to be in the package, nothing that's modified. You know, you bunch of cheaters out there, you can't do that, but it's in the package. And $10 buy-in, and you can have fun with this. You can grudge race. I'm sure they'll have a bounty on somebody, so where it's, you know, oh, if you can beat this guy, you win $20, $50. And it normally is a good turnout. I mean, winning it, you know, you're winning $500, $600, $700. So at that point, it's fun. It's just a lot of fun. You see people maybe you haven't seen, you know, for months and months, and you just BS. There's food, there's drinks, dancing. You get to see some people do some karaoke, you know, stuff like that. It's just a good time and keeping, you know, the car community up and running. So we are headed out to do that. And then after that, we'll come back here and do a little bit more work in the barn on the 55, but I'll show you guys some of the stuff that we got going on there. And man, I hope I don't get eliminated first round.
Got ourselves a little bit of hot rod drags kicking on this Saturday night. Here comes Jenny coming up. No red light. Wow, pretty good. Got a good turnout for this. And there's where all the drag racing's happening, but everybody's having a good time, just chilling out. Oh! So how'd you do after your first round? Yeah.
Yeah, she lost. I went out second round, though, as you guys will plainly see. But it's all good. your red light.
I got it in his head.
Real quick here, the semi-final. Anybody special you want to say hi to? My wife's Gordon. My name's Gordon. How are you? I'll come out. And $20 bounty. Come in. Have you been? Ladies and gentlemen, our first ever women's champion, 2024 How you doing, bro? Anything you want to say to anybody? That's thing. That's pretty simple. Even I know these things are things. Thank you very much, everybody. If you guys want to grudge race, continue your grudge race. Have a good time.
So now I know facing me that I want this to go that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my vise, I'm going to line it up dead even with that, and I'm just going to have that line right above. There. Now, some of these you can actually take and kind of bend by hand. So that ain't moving too bad. That at least starts it. We're not, oh, whack, 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 whack. Yeah, come on. Gotta beat this thing. We're not going crazy Schwarzenegger on this thing. Just easy going. So, like I said, I'm not pounding the crap out of this thing, because keep in mind, when you start doing this, you're stretching the middle. So now I want to make this edge nice and tight. As I'm hitting, I'm drawing. I'm not just going whack, whack. I'm trying to hit this flat and draw. All right, let's take a little look-see at it. Okay, we're good there. I got to back that off a little bit. We're good there, but this side I got to just back off a little bit. So let's just make sure everything's, oh yeah. That's better. Okay, now let's go take a look-see, see how this turned out. And there we go. So you can see she's laying in there really nice. Now I have extra here. And this is what I mean by all I'm going to do is just take a Sharpie, mark it, cut it, because that angle is not going to be perfect. But I wanted enough metal to overhang the gap. So that way you're not trying to fill gaps in with, with your welder. So now, try not to trip. So now, I'm just going to mark that. Did it transfer over? Bottom one did. It's a pain in the butt getting the side one. You're being a little stinker. I mean, this is probably going to end up going up there. Yep, that's a straight line. Okay. So, that's what I got to trim off of that. Now, at that point, then this is ready to go. Now I just need to make a back corner. Well, the back corner is pretty straightforward. All I have to do is make a squared piece for this back edge. Follows this angle for that back edge. That's a nothing piece. So I will make that up as well. And we will have this piece ready to weld in. So that's what I got to trim off. Okay, piece is all welded up. There you go. Now, what I also ended up doing was I just ground it to make sure that it was flush. That because of the welding that I did, there you go, you can kind of see the spots where I tacked it. Just 3 there, about 4 or 5 up through here. Well, 4 and 4. And from doing that, then I just knocked it down to where this was flush. Everything's flush in here. This will drop in. Now, once you weld it, obviously, you're going to weld this edge and all of this and all of this. So that'll all be welded up and it'll be nice and secure. This is just to kind of help seal it up. So let's go take a look, see how it looks on the car. And we drop her on in there. Bloop. And there we go. Now, I have a little bit of an edge right there. Now, what I can do is you can either melt it with the welder, which I'm not going to do, or you put it down flat, then you get like a flap wheel, and you basically knock that edge down. Because it's just, you can probably hear me just pulling on it a little bit. But other than that, everything is just nice and tight. Here, I'll pull you guys off so you can see the fitment of what we're dealing with. So, now you can see it's just nice and tight. So we can fit it all against that edge. You know, I got a little bit of a gap here. I can push that in, you know, and I'll be able to kind of distort this thing as I'm welding. But that fits pretty nice. I got a little bit of an edge right there. So the same thing, I'm going to end up taking the flap wheel and grinding that down. And then this will be ready to weld on. Now, I'm not going to weld it on right now. What I'm going to do is we're moving on to that guy. That guy can stay in there. But that's done. See, nice tight fit. Looks good. Once it's welded and you put some paint in there, people won't really notice it that much. They'll look at it and like, man, you did some notch in here and this and this and this. For me, one of the best things is not if people don't notice it. I mean, that is cool in that sense. But it takes them a little while to find it. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo? And that's what I mean by when I told you guys about like brake lines and things like that and detailing your brake lines. It is cool to see the blown small block, old school blown small block. That's cool. But that's where my eyes start, you know, shooting for things like, hey, did they do any of this? Did they notch anything? Did they kind of custom fit this or do that or make one bracket do a multiple thing? You know, have holds a fuel regulator plus it holds, you know, your overflow puke can. Just stuff like that where it takes a little bit of fabrication ability to be able to do that stuff. But that's, to me, that's the fun. This is some of the stuff that I enjoy. Old man taught me that, you know, years ago, and that's what he loves. He loves just working on cars. I like working on it, but I also like drag racing them and all that. He likes racing, but he has more of a passion of just constantly working on cars. I'm 50-50. I like showing it off, and then, hey, let's go, you know, race some hell and go do some burnouts and let's make some money with the stuff. So, but that's just stuff that he's taught me through, well, over the decades here. So, yeah, let's move on to the second one. All right, this next one. Well, this one's going to be a little more tricky. If you could make yourself through that guy right there, which is pretty basic and straightforward, but again, if you've never fabricated, and sometimes people just get a little lost in, man, I don't know how to make it. How do I make that? Well, hopefully these will give you, you know, some tips and tricks on how to do this stuff. Now, this guy is going to be a little bit more trickier because what we're going to be using is this. Good old exhaust pipe. All right, now how am I going to take this and turn it into what I need? Well, the thing is, it's already got the shape that I need. Now, you can sit here and try to like hand fabricate, you know, a bent piece and all that, but you're going to spend a lot of time doing it, and we can do it. But the thing is, if you have something like this already here, use it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a chunk of this guy, and we're going to start fabbing this into that shape that we need. Measure, measure, measure. All right, so what do we got? We have, we'll say 2 1/4. By, that's about 3 1/4. That's going to be an interesting chunk. How it's cut back and all that. That one's going to suck. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it just go straight back, and then I'll make it up in that little side piece. So, yeah, we'll say 3 1/4. 3 1/4 by 2 1/4. All right, so let's go back over here. So here's the 2-inch piece, well, 2-inch pipe that's measured out at the 2 1/4 depth, you know, this way. Now what I did was I just cut it right in half. There's tons of seam lines that are on these things that are straight lines. Just cut up one of them.
Doesn't matter. I mean, you can see them everywhere. There's a perfect example. Just cut right up the middle of that. That way you know you have a dead nuts straight line. Now, with this, how do I know how much I have to unfold, straighten, so on and so forth? Well, I want to keep a certain amount of this shape. So that's what I have to figure is my depth. So I'm going to start with a straight line like so. Let me grab my straight edge. So at this point, I want to start figuring out how much of it do I want to have that goes down. Now I'm going to not drop the thing. I'm going to be basing it off of this edge here. So I really would be, figuring it out here, but it's easier grabbing here because it's cooler. I'm figuring out how much do I want to have dropping down. Now, I've already figured it out. I don't need much. So if I go 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, from that, then I can straighten the rest of this. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Cut edge is right here at 3 o'clock for me. So what I'm going to do is it's right here. I'm going to start figuring out my depth. So if I want, let's just say 3/8 of an inch. Well, we know right there is 1/2 inch. So that's too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep clocking, and obviously I can come all the way in. So I want to be roughly about there. So then I know right here, that spot right there, I'm going to want to, okay. So I'm going to make my straight line. So there's my straight line. So from that edge to that edge, there to there, that is going to be my dip. There is our piece. So I have my curve that I want. Now I already know I need to come up and then curve it in. So that mark that I made, the same way that we ended up doing it before, get that nice and on the vise, the same way we did it before. Now, normally you can get lucky. Yeah, you can bend this. There. Now, you can kind of get the idea of my shape, what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to throw it back in there. Do it a little bit harder. There. Now, at that point, I'm going to be able to see how much I need to cut off. So let's go take a look on the car. Yeah, I got to do a little trimming on that edge. Just in here. Seems like it's a little too narrow. Let me grab the tape measure here. Are we still exactly at 2 1/4? What are we at this area here? Ah, we're just under. Okay. So we're 2 1/4 here. We're like a 1/16 of an inch under. So I am going to have to trim that a little bit. So you can either trim the frame or you can trim your part. I can shave that and I can get it to just shave it a bunch of times and then just slowly fit your part in. I'm so close, I'm just going to shave that. Now it's just lightly setting in there. What's going to have to happen is where I put, let me bring you down a little here. Okay. Where I put this curve here, right? It's actually got to come up a little bit more and then it kind of swoops and curves in. So what I'm going to do is I'll make my little pieces that fill these in. This is the same as what we did on this guy. Exact same thing. So those are easy. You just use this as your dummy plate. Now, with this portion, what I'm going to do is I'll tack this in. I'll get the dummy plates made up, kind of set it in there. I'll get it to this point. Then what you have to do is kind of weld and then form this to the same angle. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. It's going to take a little bit more fabrication. That's why I said this one compared to making the first one, this is going to take you a little bit more effort and just a little more patience to make the shapes and make it work. So we got the welder all fired up. I'm going to put some tacks in here. to bring this down a little bit. I like that back edge. So that I'm going to keep. I don't want to go too much farther down on this guy because I need the height here. So, I'll do here, pull this up a little bit. Yeah. Can I even stick the tip of this? All right. I can barely stick the tip of that in there. I can fill that with a little bit of weld. So that I'm not too worried about. I'm going to grab the grinder real quick. So I knock that down more flush. Now, fill that hole in a little bit. And I can do the same there. Now, put a little tack on this back edge. And as you can see, all it's doing is it's holding that section for me. So all I'm doing is getting it to where it's flush. Put a little tack there. Knock it down a little farther. So I hope this helped you guys out. Please hit me down in the comments if you enjoyed a little bit of this Auto Fab Shop 101. Sorry that my big old fat head's getting in the way here. Apologize, I know you guys want to see me lay down these welds, but I will promise to show you this finished product coming up next. So, the finished product, here we go. Painted up with some trim black, and you can see we have plenty of room here. Plenty of room here, just like what was showing you before, but that is what your finished product is going to look like. Now, if you want to take this to the next level, what you would then do is grind off your welds, or grind down your welds. Then you would cover it in all metal. Then you would sand the all metal down. You want to put all metal down on bare metal. It has more bite than Bondo. You would do that, you'd sand it, then you'd do maybe a coat of Bondo on it. This is if you're trying to make it look really, really smooth, kind of like what I did with like the firewall and stuff like that. If you're that type of guy and you want to go to that level, hey, hats off to you, go for it. You're really not going to see that. So I'm not too worried about it, but if you want to go there, go there. But that's pretty much it for today. Next week, we're going to finish up on brake lines, underside, get that all painted, get that all done, so you guys will see that on the next one. But don't forget, on Tuesdays at 4:30, we upload our videos, and we are going to now do on Thursdays at 4:30 as well. We're going to do the muscle car corner, where we basically just kind of sit and BS about drag racing and muscle cars, and grab a drink and hang out with us for a little bit, and we'll tell you some stories, and Lord knows we have plenty of them. With as many cars between me and the old man, the hundreds and hundreds of cars that we've had, we got plenty of stories for you. So, old man's bringing in a car right now, so hey, I tell you what, you guys have yourselves a good one. Don't forget to hit that share, like, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Till we meet again, my friends.